I really don't know why the inspiration for these stories comes so late in the evening. It's currently 9:16, and I've suddenly experienced a frightening moment. I've been reminded of a story that I was told by a nanny several years ago. I used to think it wasn't real, but now I'm not so sure. This is the legend of the bush baby. Different legends and urban myths mean different things to different people, but to me, this became real and a sort of nightmare. The bush baby is called by its name because its cries sound like those of an actual human baby. The cries of the baby are supposed to lure unsuspecting people to danger and eventually their demise. Although the bush baby sounds very human and fragile, its cries being sweet and painful and therefore difficult to resist, it is supposed to be extremely dangerous. It apparently consumes humans and leaves nothing behind but bones and clothing. When I was about 9 years old, I ran away from home. I don't recall what caused me to flee. It would have been something minor, such as an argument, usually with my grandmother. Or I was probably told no, I couldn't have something. So I decided to run away rather than risk any further ill treatment. I was found within a short time. I hadn't gotten very far and was promptly marched back home. It was almost my bedtime, so I prepared for bed. I got into bed and picked up the book my mother was supposed to read. Little did I know she was so irritated by my stunt, she wasn't coming. There was a little knock at my bedroom door, and my nanny came in. Her name was Antonia. She was from the southeast of the country, quite beautiful and with completely hypnotic eyes. My mother had always found her odd, saying she gave her the chills. However, my mother was naturally suspicious of people. It was in her nature. I was slightly surprised at the sight of Antonia. She didn't usually tuck me in. "Are you going to read me a story?" I asked. I had the tendency to brush aside my wrongdoings. "I have something better," Antonia replied. "I'll tell you a real story. There is a home for troubled and abandoned children in my village, in the heart of Imo State." I knew of her state and the area she was from. They had some of the best storytellers in the country. "In this children's home," she continued, "the children always came in before a certain time, as it wasn't always safe to be out." Her voice drifted off. She'd piqued my curiosity. "Why? What would happen?" She gave me a strange look. "There is a lot that goes on, and a lot that you don't understand. You live in a busy city, but this was the outskirts of a village, near a forest. There were stories of children going missing and completely disappearing, never to be seen again. That night, after ushering all the children indoors, they heard a scream. It was low but shrill, as though it was supposed to be heard by only a few people. They said it was a baby crying. There was a debate about what to do. The more superstitious amongst them wanted to leave it, while the others had empathy. What if it really is a baby? Why would a baby be left out at this time? There are no newborn babies nearby, and there are no babies in this home. Well, it turned into a heated debate. But as is usual with so many, it is difficult to listen to the sounds of a baby crying and ignore it. No one can ignore those whimpering cries. 2 people volunteered to go out when the baby's cries penetrated the air. More persistent and shrill this time. The doors were opened and they left, but the doors quickly locked behind them. Moments passed, but nothing happened. No knocking on the door to be let back in. However, the cries had stopped, and the night was deathly silent. The minutes got longer, and another volunteer wanted to go out and look for them. Perhaps they had gotten lost, or gone to find the mother of the baby. But that didn't make any sense. The plan had been to go out, find the baby, and bring the baby back indoors. They could find the parents when daylight returned. Eventually, it was agreed that another volunteer could go outside, but with conditions. They were never to stray from the entrance of the home. The volunteer stood outside the door with a light in hand and shone it around, but there was nothing, no sign or sound of a baby. The 2 volunteers had disappeared. They didn't respond to calls, and they wouldn't and couldn't have gone far. The sound of the baby crying had completely died down, and no matter how much they called out, nothing was heard in the surrounding area. Instead, there was a dead silence. The volunteer came back in, shivering, even though the night was warm. The doors were quickly bolted shut for the night, and it was decided 2 people would stay awake, just in case. They weren't quite sure what had happened, but something unnatural definitely happened, and the others were not coming back. They also knew it had been a trap to lull them into a false sense of security and get them to emerge from the safety of the home. It is said that a bush baby will never enter your home, but instead will trick you into leaving the safety of it. It is also said nothing was ever found of the volunteers or the mystery baby. Searches were conducted with help from the nearby towns, but nothing. There were bone remnants that were human, but that was all that remained. This story was so chilling, especially before bedtime, that I've never forgotten it. There's also a saying that goes, a baby's cry is the sweetest thing to hear, but it's midnight in the forest, and you slowly realize you don't have a baby. Thank you for listening. I love you all.